There's a saying that's made its way around the internet and no one's really sure who said it, but it goes something like this. It's saying, and they were thought to be mad who were dancing by those who could not hear the music. That reminds us of Krishna consciousness. Yanisha sarvabhutanam. Ami ek botul tumi dvitiya. I'm crazy the first, you're crazy the second. Mahaprabhu to Ramananda. So when you say madness, what's madness in the world? Krishna consciousness is like madness to people. But for those who are Krishna conscious, the people of this world, they think they're mad. Who can I tell? Who would believe me? Vikrititam brajabaduridam jabishnu shraddhan vito anushranaya dattabarna yedya. Very interesting, Krishna consciousness. You cannot capture it with your intellect. Only faith, like the Life of Pi movie, where the man says, I'm going to tell you a story that will make you believe in God. Then he tells this, for the sake of this conversation, an inconceivable story. He tells us to Japanese insurance agents are saying, that's unbelievable. You'll never get any money for that. Because what if I tell you a story that's believable? Yes. Then he tells believable story. And they say, oh, we could give something for that. But then the man says, but of the two stories I told you, which do you prefer? And they go, we prefer the unbelievable one. That's what he meant. The story of God is inconceivable. The story of science, of rational, appears to be believable to the so-called rational mind. But the story of God is inconceivable. Of the two, we prefer the inconceivable story of God to the rational, so-called rational narrative of secular humanist and atheistic science. You know, Guru Maharaj so much liked Hegel, and he's given Hegel a lot of sukriti. Reality is for itself and by itself, self-determination, die to live, so many things. But he once wrote me in a letter, he said, but what Hegel cannot accommodate is lila. He thinks everything, it needs a cause to advance it to the next position, to the next. So, but he can't understand the concept of lila and pastimes. It may be in the love affairs of Radha and Krishna, what is called man, loving anger, for no reason other than its necessity, its own necessity to express certain emotions. That's the beauty of Krishna Lila and the higher pastimes, that there is no cause in that sense. We could say, in this world, we might hear stories, love stories, and that awakens some sympathy or empathy in our hearts by hearing that. Right? But it's just a mundane love story. Here's another type of story that has similar elements, but if you can manage to express some appreciation for this, then it's taking you into another plane, right? It's reality, as opposed to just hearing something that's a reflection of that. Nitya Lila is circular, and that which is circular or eternal, it has no beginning, middle, or end. It's all going on simultaneously. unless we think like, well, that's inconceivable. Well, we mainly specialize in the inconceivable. But examples are given. So Kaviraj Goswami says, like the sun, if we did a conference call right now, Skype conference call, we could, somewhere in the world, the sun's rising and someone could describe, oh, the most beautiful sunrise. You should see it. I wish you were here. Someone else saying, no, I'm seeing, it's an incredible sunset. I wish you were here to see that. And someone else is saying, no, it's pitch black. You know, it's so dark. And someone else, no, the blazing hot sun, it's too much. So who's lying? No one. They're all telling the truth from relative perspective. And what's interesting is, if we did a real mass Skype call, that and we sequence this, I'm sure someone could write an algorithm, you know, and it would just kick in seamlessly. And at every moment, someone could be describing a sunrise, a sunset, high noon, and midnight. At every single moment, they could be describing that. And actually, the example comes from Mahaprabhu himself. It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, perhaps Sanatan Shiksha, to explain these things. So he's saying that's the sun, which, although extraordinary, and it's used in many examples, but is still technically a mundane object, although it shows extraordinary qualities and characteristics. So he's saying, if the sun, one sun situated in one place, through relative perception, can be seen to be continuously rising, continuously setting, noon, high noon, midnight, and all simultaneously, then what to speak of the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So you hear this expression, Nitya Lila. Every day we sing this, Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korilo Prakash. That this Nitya Lila, the circular like eternal pastimes, they're always, period. Right? And he's given an example to help us understand. So if the sun can be perceived that way, so it means, according to the perspective of the devotees, they can always be relishing some aspect. Leela is in real time, eternally. So those who can tune in to that, they're experiencing, live stream, real time Leela, right? And not just as like audience members or observers in that sense, but as participants. Guru Maharaj has told us that bhajan is not some sort of like mental culture, but it's direct service. It's not that of a practitioner, like sadhana, spiritual practices, but actually direct participation. Right? We may see from an external point of view, it appears someone is absorbed in deep thought, meditation, etc. But he's telling us they're in direct participation in these pastimes. Krishna Lila is cast and scripted by Yogamaya and Baladev to create this sort of emotional intensity. And we're talking about divine emotions. Okay? Lila means play. And if we just think, oh, play, then we don't have to take it seriously. No, we see in this world, in a play, movie, acting, when they're really good, and we'll say this as viewers, you forget this world and you enter that world and you believe everything you're seeing. It's intense. It's more intense than real life. Like when in suspense, someone's walking upstairs and they're going to open this door. Right? It can be, you're shaking. It's in anticipation. right? So this play story, the visuals you're seeing and the accompanying audio is putting you in a sort of, deep emotional state. And that's with mundane things. So the Krishna Lila is having that effect upon whom? The soul. Penetrating the layers of acquired prejudice and acquired tendency, awakening the soul plane. That's who resonates with Krishna Lila. Sometimes Guru Maharaj would joke and say, we are devotees of the invisible, right? Of that which you cannot see. What is beyond the grasp of ordinary people to see is clear to Brahmins. They can see it very easily. There are many examples of that. What writers see, other people don't see. My photography teacher, she used to tell me about putting on your photographic eyes, right? Your camera at your side, but you go into your photographic mode. Sometimes she'd start the class, she'd look out the window and go, well, it looks like an F8 type of day. She'd start calling out apertures because she put on her photographic eyes. Right? When in the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna wants to reveal something extraordinarily spiritual to Arjuna, he's saying, you cannot see this with your present eyes. So, Divya Chakshu, I'm going to give you divine eyes so that you can see this. Have a glimpse of infinite perspective. Sticking with the photography example, there's short depth of field, and then there's a depth of field called infinity. Right? And the short, what's before you is in focus, everything else is blurred, and infinite depth of field, everything is in focus. So there's a perspective, infinite perspective, that's sought out by spiritually progressive people. A Brahmin who's meditating, lost in meditation, meaning he's not very conscious of the external world. He's deeply conscious of the internal world. And the noteworthy point is, it's on account of deep absorption in the internal world that he's not outer directed. It's not that by self-abnegation, by renouncing the objective world, that he's gone deep internally. That's the conventional stereotype, but that's not what is being underscored in the Bhagavatam or such literature. But rather they're saying, on account of deep internal absorption, the result is the objective world becomes secondary and adjusted. Like in Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna is saying, Vishaya vinivartante, niraharasya dehina, rasovarjam rasopyasya, paramdrishtva nivartate. Arjuna, they're having a discussion at this point about sense control. And he's saying, what's the point of controlling your senses if your mind is still obsessing over sense objects? It's actually a very interesting section. And in Prabhupada's purport to that, he says, it's better to be a sincere street sweeper than a charlatan meditator. Right? So he's saying, if the senses are controlled, but internally you're dwelling on them, it's like, what do we say? Intent is 9/10 of the law. We were speaking about this the other day. What qualifies something as karma is the mind is the seat of karma. It's not as much the action, but the internal motive. Just like in a criminal trial, when they have to, it's clear, both sides agree, let's say, both sides agree to what happened. The defense and what's the other side? The prosecuting attorney. They both agree to what happened. But what's going to determine culpability was motive. What was the person thinking at that time? That's going to make all the difference. So in the Gita, Krishna says, just trying to renounce the objective world will prove futile and really subduing the senses or being misled by the senses. He's saying, but rather, rasovarjam rasopyasya param drishtva. We're back to the word rishi is encoded there. Param drishtva, superior experience. In the presence of a superior experience, automatically inferior experience retreats. That's the way. That's the best. A higher taste, lower taste vanishes. Drishtva, rishi, drishi. Those who are seeing, experiencing the truth, they're not outer directed. So sometimes people will think, well, these ancient civilizations and culture were so advanced. How come they appear to be technologically primitive? Well, one way of looking at it is they were so inner directed that they only put the minimum effort in outer things. The old saying, simple living, high thinking. They didn't want to complicate unnecessarily their outer lives, is one way of looking at it. That in this world, the most valuable treasures get the association of devotees. And what do we get in their association? They tell us about Krishna. But Sanatana Goswami is saying, Avaishnava mukod girnam putam harikatamritam sravanam naiva kartavyam. But don't hear about Krishna from someone who's not actually Vaishnav. And what will be the effect? It says, sarpo uchista, sarpo chistam yata payo. In Vedic understanding, that feeding a snake, a cobra, milk will increase its venom. The milk becomes poisonous. It's converted into poison. It's milk, but given to a cobra, it's converted into poison. Saying, Harikatha, it's that nectarine substance, should be, that you should hear about, remember, chant, Sravanam Kirtanam, Krishna. Right? But not from a non-devotee, a non-Vaishnava, someone who's not initiated into Krishna conception by a substantial agent. It will have the opposite effect. It'll be what is supposed to be life-saving, life-giving nectar is rendered poison. Right? So Putana comes to nurse, ostensibly to nurse. Right? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying in parallel, this false guru is there apparently to nurse the infant Krishna conception of the aspiring servitor, but is really poisoning, as we've seen in those who try to give rasa shiksha to the unqualified. So Saraswati Thakur wrote the Prakrita Rasa Shatadushini, pointing out their disqualification, that an actual rasic guru will never give rasa shiksha to someone who doesn't have the adhikar or capacity, eligibility to relish that. It's not only inappropriate, it's illegal, it's condemnable. Right? It disqualifies one from being a bona fide member of the Rupanuga line. 100 flaws he's given there. As Guru Maharaj pointed out, there are thousands of flaws, but he picked out 100 prominent. We're not interested in counterfeit substance. It's not only valueless, it's illegal and punishable. So spiritual substance only comes Vikriditam Brajabadu Viridam cha Vishnu Shradhanvito Anushranayad Attavarnayedya. When Krishna is distributing, that's the only way you can get it. If Krishna's will is not there in the background to distribute himself, then you won't get it, real thing. You'll be deceived. When Babaji Maharaj, Gaur Kishore told, after the man recited the Bhagavatam, get some cow dung and cow urine and cleanse this place. And everyone's saying, well, where the Bhagavatam is spoken, the speaker is purified, the hearer, the inquirer, the audience, the very place in which the recitation takes place. Why is Babaji Maharaj want cow dung in it? That's when something's really been polluted, the only way to. Saying, you heard Bhagavatam, all I heard was money, money, money. Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadyanavritam. No ulterior motive, no ulterior purpose. Like putana. Ulterior motive, ulterior purpose. In the name of nectar distribution. So the Shatpatai, the honeybee-like devotees of the Lord mentioned there on the concluding section of Prapanna Jivanamritam, they're relishing, and Guru Maharaj says, but in the madness of their relishing the topics of Krishna, some drops of the honey are falling, and Guru Maharaj says, I'm collecting those. And what I collected, that nectar that fell from them, I'm presenting that to you. Gurudev liked this sloka very much. If what's coming to us is not what's been relished by Guru and Vaishnav, our Guru, our Vaishnava, then why will you try and approach that substance? Because it's on the internet? Because some devotee, someone wrote a book. If it doesn't come to us through the agency of Guru, pranamami charanantika paricharaka sahitam, Guru and Guru's surrogate, delegate, we're not interested in that. Why? Because it's something else. We're interested in what's been relished by, we take prasadam, what has been relished, then they bring that to us. Now it has some taste because it's been relished. Right? Krishna, in the beginning, Radharani eats Krishna's remnants. Like the song we sing every day. What is the line about? Danishta, Peye. It says that she brings the Krishna's remnants to Radharani. Remember, Radharani is cooking. She has a benediction from Durvasa Muni that whatever she cooks will taste as sweet as nectar. So this allows, in the pastimes, and the way that Vrindavan operates, for Mother Yashoda to enlist Radharani in cooking for Krishna. Like, there's no question. She has this benediction, everyone knows that she's a really good cook, maybe the best cook of all time. I don't know who's a better cook, Yashoda or Radharani. Guru Maharaj will say, the same thing can be cooked by a friend for a friend, by a mother for a child, by a wife for a husband, or a paramour for her lover, and it will taste differently. When I went to take shelter, full shelter of the lotus feet of Srila Guru Maharaj, at that time there were many societal concerns making my head spin in the realm of argument and counter-argument over seemingly important things. But at the lotus feet, Saraswati Thakur says, at the lotus feet of Sri Guru, we do not become aware of the defects of others, but aware of our own. My religion is finding fault with myself, Srila Gurudev said. Saraswati Thakur, same son, he said, when you're situated at the lotus feet of Sri Guru, you do not become aware of the deficiencies or the defects of others, but rather your own shortcomings. He said, it is only that I am honeycombed with defects that I take the task finding fault with Vaishnavas. So when we went to the lotus feet of Srila Guru Maharaj, I recall one time in particular, he was very happy and chanting a sloka of Narahari Sakar Thakur that begins with the line, Gopi Nam Kuchukum Kumena Nichitam Basa Kimasyaranam. He is, as Guru Maharaj said, a peculiar devotee. His expressions are not standard. Some of the things he's expressed, people have taken and imposed their own misconception upon the upper world, upon Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu has come to experience Bhakta Bhav, Swabhaktebhya Sudham Nijabhajana Mudram Upadisham. And the highest type of Bhakta Bhav, Radha Bhava Duty Subalita. He's not come as an enjoyer, a predominator, like Krishna. But Narahari Sakar Thakur is a very peculiar devotee. And he says to Mahaprabhu in the sloka, I don't recognize your sannyas. What? I don't recognize your sannyas. I know who you are. Right? He's channa covered, but he said, I know who you are underneath. You're Krishna, Lampat Guru. You're the guru of the womanizers, the ultimate womanizer. That Krishna of Vrindavan, who is famous as a lampat, a womanizer, he's taken sannyas. This is some kind of a joke. Krishna's taken sannyas. Like when Durvasa, that story about Braja Gopis crossing the Jamuna. The only way they can cross, Krishna, it says, tell Jamuna, I am a brahmachari. Krishna's a perfect brahmachari. They go, because the currents go up and down, and they approach and say, Krishna's a perfect brahmachari. The waters part, they go through on the other side, feed Durvasa Muni, a huge feast, inconceivably huge feast. And when they have to return, what does he tell them? You tell them that Durvasa Upabashi. Durvasa, he's fasting. We just fed you a huge feast. You just say, Durvasa Upabashi. If Krishna is a brahmachari, then Durvasa Upabashi. They say, Durvasa Upabashi. Waters part and go. So what is brahmacharya? What is that? Is, in that plane, another consideration. Krishna, when he steals the clothes of the Braja Gopis, he said, actually from a distance, I saw these trees with all these different colorful fruits. And when I got here, I saw their ladies' garments. What happened? And they're sitting in the water. What do you mean? He said, maybe some forest nymphs or something. No, you took our... Krishna said, I can tell you, I never touch anyone else's property. Not that kind of person. And he has these little toddler children with him who can't even speak. He goes, you can ask them. And they're all like, Krishna. You can see, they will vouch for what I'm saying, that it's true. They're just following Krishna because he's so irresistibly charming and attractive. And of course, Krishna is right. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram ahangi sarva yagyanam bhokta cha prabhureva cha. In one sense, it is impossible for him to transgress. He owns everything and everyone, including us. So Narahari, Krishna has become a sannyasi. Can anybody believe that? And they said, well, but look, his saffron cloth. And he said, I know how you dyed your cloth with the kumkum from the breast of the Brajagopis. That's how you got saffron cloth. And when Guru Maharaj would tell this, he would just be laughing and slapping his knee and his chair and just glowing and radiant. He thought it was very humorous. Gopinam kuchukum kumena nichitam basa kim yasyaranam. His vasa, what he's wearing, like bahirvash dress, arun means like the sun of saffron. Kuchukum kumena, the kumkum from the breast of the Brajagopis have dyed his cloth saffron. Who can say that? Narahari Sakar Thakur. He's the only person who can say that. Then others, on the basis of some peculiar statements, like they've tried to establish a false doctrine, a false theory called Gauranga Nagarivad, where they put Mahaprabhu in the position of an enjoyer like Krishna. Say, in Chaitanya Mangal it says that ladies of Navadvip expressed erotic sentiments towards Nimai Pandit, and Guru Maharaj saying one sentence, yes, and he never reciprocated them. Anyway, that's another subject matter. But we can see how fine it is. Here's the pure devotee expressing these peculiarly sweet, eccentric statements, and then others abusing that, imposing their own misconception. And that's a crime against divinity, for the lower to impose something upon the higher. In its lower stages, karma kanda, and the higher stages, just rasa bas, prakrita, rasa sahajism. So we have to be careful and not impose our lower conception upon the higher. We want the inverse, that the higher may consent to make an impression upon our hearts. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says that false guru, that has to be overcome by the devotee. Others will come with the help of guru, this, that, the other, but that they have to deal with. Nahi kalyanakrit kaschya durgatim tatagachyati Guru Maharaj says, armed with sincerity. The sincere will be victorious. Sincerity is invincible. If I do not cheat me, no one can cheat me. Healthy means hungry. So every day, hunger reappears, doesn't it? Unless we're ill. It's not to say, we may say that, something like, that was the meal to end all meals. Yeah, and I guarantee tomorrow you'll be hungry. It's just a matter, it's a level of praise, it's a magnitude of praise. To say, this tastes so, if you haven't ever eaten this, it tastes so wonderful, you've never eaten. It's not true, it's a way of speaking. So, hunger is an indication of health in the physical sense. And if we're going to follow that conceit, what shall we say? Is that in addressing our hunger, we ingest something that is vital. And here I remember from my days in Germany, they have the word Essen for food. And I thought, like essential, Essen. So you take in what is essential, then you extract from that what is vital, what promotes vitality, and then you eliminate. So Guru Maharaj stated this in a principle. Progress means elimination and a new acceptance. It's the same thing. Right? Sometimes certain things have to be eliminated and new things accepted. There's not just one final thing. It's a dynamic process, constant elimination and a new acceptance. One of the indicators that we have vibrant, vital, alive Krishna conception is that if by the grace of our Guru Varga, some glimpse comes to us, it will be fresh and new. Sometimes we read a pastime of Krishna, and maybe we have some appreciation by their grace for that. Say, and you read it a year ago or 3 years ago. And then you might think, I would like to read that again. I remember the last time when I heard that, read that, approached that, how beautiful and wonderful it was. But then you read it again, and it's different. It's beautiful, but it's somehow different than it was that other time. And that happens again and again and again. So in these descriptions, they're not ordinary descriptions. That's why whenever we repeat them, we should try to do so with greatest accuracy. Or if Krishna's pastimes are being told to children, they should be accurate. We shouldn't make things up. They should accurately follow the story. Because here's a child offering themselves to hear these things, they need to get it right so that when they'll get the maximum benefit for it because they're perfectly constructed. And in the future, when they recall hearing these things in their childhood, they may have a tendency to reproduce them accurately. So, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur placing emphasis on the pastimes of Krishna, the childhood pastimes of Krishna, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, in one sense, the whole idea is total immersion. And we have a glimpse of that when we hear from the higher devotees. And interestingly, even the same pastimes can be described accurately by great devotees, but still have a different taste and quality to the rendering. as we find in the beginning of the Brihad Bhagavatamritam, Maharaj Janamejoy is speaking with Jaimini Rishi, and he says, and he just finished a Mahabharata recitation. And Janamejoy said, I heard this previously from Vishampayana Rishi. This story, the Mahabharata, divine story. He's saying, but essentially you've told the same things, but the way you've told it, it has a particular madhura, sweetness quality to it. And your recitation has awakened in me a desire for more of this madhura sweetness. And it's in response to that that Jaimini Rishi begins telling the Brihad Bhagavatamritam. So it shows it's not merely the transfer of information or story. Oh, I heard that story. Right? But how it is told, the way Vrindavan Thakur is telling some pastimes and similar pastimes being told by Kaviraj Goswami out of fear of committing the Marjana Bhyatikram, impertinently surpassing predecessor. Kaviraj Goswami would say, what Vrindavan Das is described, it would be an opera to describe the same thing, but if there's some aspect that was not described, I'll describe that. He says that humbly, but we know from Srila Guru Maharaj, Vrindavan Das Thakur, and we worship Chaitanya Bhagavat, is from the perspective of a cowherd boy, Sakya Rasa. Chaitanya Charitamritam is an exclusively Madhura Rasa literature. It's like in my first actual meeting with Srila Guru Maharaj, where Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj took myself and Bhakti Abai Narayan Maharaj up to the lotus feet of Guru Maharaj. At one point, Bhakti Abai Narayan Maharaj said to him, he said, I find I'm more attracted to Chaitanya Charitamritam than Srimad Bhagavatam. Like a bold statement. But Guru Maharaj just responded very matter-of-factly, saying, of course. He said, because Srimad Bhagavatam presents rasa, it takes us from the plane of ontology to rasa, but in gradual development, culminating in Madhura rasa in the 10th canto. And whereas Chaitanya Charitamritam is an exclusively Madhura rasa literature. So now, naturally, that is your preference. And I was saying, it is? As Guru Maharaj said, and with this maxim, as connotation increases, denotation decreases. So if we say, well, there's Bhagavad Gita, we should all study the Bhagavad Gita, north, south, east, and west, everyone will agree. The Vaishnavas, the Mayavadis, the Western scholars, movie makers, everyone, yes, Bhagavad Gita. But if we increase the connotation of what is meant by Bhagavad Gita, the denotation will narrow, in one sense, become more refined. So if we say, well, really, Bhagavad Gita has to be understood in the light of the Bhagavat, Srimad Bhagavatam, then you're left with really Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Sri Vaishnavas, Madhvas, Gaudiyas, etc. But if we take it further and say, yes, and that Bhagavatam, where some key verses that are at play in these pastimes, that needs to be understood in the light of the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then you're left with Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Gyan, in its ordinary sense, knowledge. Vigyan, Prabhupada sometimes rendered as realized knowledge or more specific knowledge going towards the divine. But prakrishta gyan, pragyan, means of the highest quality. As usual, anything Guru Maharaj will say, he wants to give the superlative. So what would be the highest type of gyan? Like jnana dipena bhashvata, where Krishna is revealing himself in a very specific way to a very specific group. That's always Guru Maharaj's method of observation. And this is another good example, because he likes things that are sequential in the sense of not linear, but higher, deeper, more profound, more substantial in that way. When you have a really big person, and by that I mean like just in the sense of like, the president, a king, a prime minister, that person, we will find, if they speak candidly, they will tell us, they'll say like, I can't find anyone I can be myself with. Right? It's a simple thing. They go, why? Well, everyone sees me as the president, the prime minister, the king, very often it's a botheration to them, their position. And people can't stop thinking, I'm with the king, I'm with the president, I'm with the prime minister. Right? So they're always seeing them in terms of their position. In that sense, you can say their majestic aspect. Right? The majestic aspect of divinity on this side of the line, on the eastern side, is Vaikuntha. Right? But Krishna reveals candidly in the beginning of Charitamrita, he's saying, if Aisvarja Gyan, means awareness, knowledge of the majestic aspect, if that prevents you from your heart opening and giving that flow that I'm ever eager to taste, I'm disappointed. It may be good for you. Sure, it's good for you. Right? But I'm just letting you know, on my side, there's not much there for me. In the majestic pastimes, and they're beautiful, they're beyond beautiful. But just, as Guru is with tatasta vichar, with a bowed head, folded palms, Krishna rides on the shoulders of Garuda. Okay? And Garuda is like, how to have the Lord on your shoulders and you're flying, it's an inconceivably wonderful thing. I mean, that's his seva. He has Krishna riding on his shoulders, sometimes Krishna and Rukmini, and many things, and Satyabhama, others, But that's ecstatic. And that's with the love and affection of Garud has brought the Lord in that way. So he's reciprocating what is coming from the heart of Guru. And it's so beautiful, enchanting, charming. Right? But here in Charitamritam, saying something, I don't know if you can find it elsewhere. Krishna saying, but when I'm defeated by the devotees, I have a devotee ride on my shoulders. And you don't know how ecstatic that makes me feel. It's like, volare. Krishna's like, whoa. He's flying. And he's got a devotee he's saying, that I want. It's a wonderful thing to ride on the shoulders of Garud. But when I have a devotee on my shoulders, I can't convey to you, express to you how happy that makes me. So then he's ratcheted up a level. And then he goes further and maybe just skips one part and says this verse with the Bhartsan, means curse thing, that Radharani Maybe Krishna went to the courtyard to the house of another gopi. And that would require an explanation that's beyond me. But Gurudev could explain it. But anyway, because it's all meant to just increase Bam above, to bring out. Krishna wants to get the higher devotees riled, to bring out these sweeter, hotter sentiments, to add some chili to the mix. So he says, when my beloved, and he means by that Srimati Radharani, curses me, sometimes she says what could be seen as like offensive things. He's saying, it's so sweet to my ear that it steals my mind away from the reverential hymns of the Vedas. Now, what are the Vedas saying? Yato va imani bhuta, he's that from which everything has come, by which it is maintained, and what it will enter into ultimately. And they're saying how great he is, his innumerable incarnations, avatars, he's come to save everyone. He came and they're telling so many extraordinary ones, and praising him like 108 shikas, flames, illuminating Upanishads, illuminating Krishna conception, and Nikila Shruti Murali Ratnamala. Rupa Goswami says, they say the supreme sound is Krishna Nam. And it's so beautiful, actually, and liberating to hear and to contemplate. But Krishna says, but when Radharani is cursing me, right, saying, in other words, saying horrible things to me, it's so sweet to my ear. I can't hear those hymns saying how great I am. She's saying how not great you are. And he's saying, that I can't resist. These hymns, they're appropriate. But what she says, what comes from her heart, I forget all this other stuff. And that's got me. When Vedavyas is in dialogue with Devarshi Narada again about having just completed Mahabharata and these other scriptures, Puranas, Vedas, etc., and still feeling despondent, as the word Srila Prabhupada uses, he comes to the conclusion of his despondency when he says, Kimba Bhagavata Dharma na prayena nirupita priya paramahangsanam tadeva hyachuta priya. Maybe it's because I didn't clearly describe the glorious position of Achyuta Priya. That means ultimately Radharani, the devotee. So this book, the book of Krishna, the Krishna book, the secret to entering in there is to be an aspiring servitor of a devotee, but ultimately of the supreme devotee. Therefore, we have this hierarchy that's descending into this plane as the Rupa Nuga line. We're trying to adopt Gopi vision. Right? We want to be under their influence. Gopi Bhav means their heart, the deep heart's core of the Braja Gopis. They have a particular way of seeing things, we can say, a particular perspective that is astonishing and utterly charming and irresistible. There's so many things to consider when it comes to Vedic understanding, right? The Shrutis themselves, the original, the Upanishads, the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Smriti Shastras, the Mahabharata, so many are there. And who has the capacity to extract from there what is important? taking it that it all must be important, otherwise it wouldn't be there. But then there must be some gradation of importance. Just like we hear of the compilation of the various Puranas, 6 for the mode of ignorance, 6 for the mode of passion, 6 for the mode of goodness, and only the Srimad Bhagavat Purana is the Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamavalam, Amala, spotless, no koitava, no ulterior motive taking it in another direction. And just, as a sidebar footnote, we're told certain, for the Uttarakhanda of the Padma Purana, Sanatana Goswami says in his Brihad Bhagavatamritam Teek, where you will find the highest expression of the Supreme Absolute Truth. The Bhagavatam, Uttarakhanda. Interestingly, he includes Garga Sangita there. So it means in portions, the highest thing is expressed there. But what does Srinivasa Acharya tell us about the 6 Goswamis? Nana Shastra Vicharanai Kunipano Sadharma Sangstapako. They're Shastra Nipun. They're expert in all the different scriptures and in extracting what is essential from there. But they are the followers of Mahaprabhu. So then first, let us understand, who is Mahaprabhu? And why, his position is unique, and why he's in the best position to give this assessment. Right? Because it would be enough to say he's Krishna himself. What more would we need to say than that? Right? So when Krishna gives his opinion, from whose breathing the Vedas manifested, right? As we hear described in Bhagavad Purana and elsewhere. So if he gives you some insight to out of all of these things, in other words, if you could sit down with Krishna himself, presumably Krishna in a higher position, and inquire from Krishna, like, of all of this infinite wisdom and knowledge that you've revealed in this world, what is the most essential thing to understand? Right? Taking it, if Krishna himself could answer this question, but then we hear that Swabhaktevya Sudham Nijabhajana Mudra Mupadishan, Rupa Goswami saying, he has come with his devotees, teaching devotion. He himself is showing how to pursue the line. What could be better than that? Not only he is telling, but he is demonstrating by his own divine pastimes, character, personality. And not only that, but he is, as we can say, right, he's teaching, devotion, right, from the position of a devotee. That's still a general statement. Then we just say, well, just generic devotee or any specific devotee, and generic devotion or any specific type of devotion. Radha Bhava Duty Subalita. Sri Radhaya Pranaya Mahima Kidrishovana Eva. The type, what has captured his imagination? Aparam Kasyapi Pranay Janavindasya Kutuki. What aroused his curiosity? The devotion of a particular devotee. Right? And more specifically, Srimati Radharani. So not only if we start, age kaho ar, diving deeper into what is being expressed, The devotee is Srimati Radharani, and the type of devotion is the sort of exclusive devotion that she alone possesses. Or we could say by extension, those in connection with her, who are under her influence, who always accept her suggestion, and at every moment are always and only promoting her. So it's not some generic devotional pursuit that he's descended to distribute to everyone, but Namo Mahavaranaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurtise Namo. Right? Rupa Goswami saying, Krishna Prem, and not only that, as if that wasn't enough, Krishna Prem of the highest order. Right? And we should recall at this point that when we talk about, Bhagavat Darshan or Gaudiya Darshan, that the Vedas are compared, Vedic literature and all of its different branches, to Kalpavriksha, right? A desire tree. So that means there are so many different branches. And if you follow any particular branch, you say, well, there's one branch going this way, another branch going that way. But if we conceive of a tree, then we won't see that they're disparate parts, but they're part of an organic whole. Right? Just that one branch is going this way, another one's that way, and this one's there, and one's higher, one's lower. It's part of this organic whole. Right? So that will be helpful to us. Otherwise, we will go off on tangents, right? Even ontological tangents. So that's one thing to consider. But then, it's very beautifully described in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, and the Prayojan Tattva Sloka. Because first we hear, Janmadyasya yataha. Chakravarti Thakur is telling us, in the first few words you're being told. Like any good book, the title may reveal it all. And in the end, you'll know that. You won't know that in the beginning necessarily. Or the opening sentence has everything condensed there. And in time, you'll realize this, when we're talking about, high art or literature, which we understand as a, subjective thing, relative. But just as an example, the better writers. It's in the title, it's in the opening sentence, the opening paragraph, and everything will unfold from there. And it may, you may not realize that until you reach the end. But we could say someone with great depth of vision can see it from the very beginning. When it will say the line in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Radhastaka about all the Vedas declare that Krishna is the property of Radharani and her girlfriends. I mean, in one sense, that's an outrageous statement. Delightfully, beautifully. And so they're like, how can Bhaktivinoda Thakur say that? He said, because he has a view of the whole. So back to the tree with the branches. When you're looking, you're saying, I'm not feeling that. I'm not getting that. Yes, because, so, Janmadyasya yataha, Chakravarti Thakur saying, who's that expert with the great depth of vision, saying, right here in the opening line, you're being told, not everything comes from him, but who is he? See, it's one thing to say everything comes from him. Dandavat, Jai. But who is he from whom everything is coming? Govinda, Anadiradir Govinda, Sarvakarna Karnam. And why Govinda? That means it's going to be the full spectral range of sensuality, including the erotic principle. But every aspect, seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, feeling, when, as Blake said, when the doors of perception are cleansed, you'll see the infinite, right? And all its sensuous prospect and capacity. So Chakrabarti Thakur is saying that from whom everything is coming, he's Rasa Raj. He's the king of Rasa, Krishna. And he is not Rasa Raj without Mahabhav Swarupini Radha Thakurani. As Guru Maharaj says in his those slokas he composed for the sloka collection. We mentioned the Gadadhar Pranam, one for Vedavyas, and this one, Yadamiya Mahima Sri Bhagavatam Katayam Pratipatam Anubhutam Apya Labdavideya Tadakila Rasamurti Shamalila Avalambam Madhura Rasadi Sri Radha Padmam Padapadmam Prapadye. Very beautiful. So in this magnum opus of Veda Vyas, known as the Bhagavad Purana, the Amala Puranam, Srimad Bhagavatam, Vishwanath is also telling, what is his? Aradhya Bhagavan Brajesha Tanayas Tadama Vrind. There's no superior type of worship of Krishna than that invented by Radharani and the Brajagopis. And what is Gurma? And what is it an allusion to? Madhura Rasa. And here Guru Maharaj calls it Shamalila. As Gurudev once told me, we're taking darshan of the deities in Navadvip, and I had the good fortune to be by his side at different times, and sometimes he might say just a few words. He sees the deities and I'm just by his side considering my good fortune. I have no vision, even remotely, to see what he's in, but I'm by his side and I think, how fortunate I am. And one time, this is the deities, Guru, Gauranga, Gandharva, Govinda, Sundar. Those very deities. And he goes, heavy Madhura Rasa. And I'm going like, and he told me, he said, black is the color of Madhura Rasa. Shamalila Avalambam. And then I remember, Shamalila Avalambam. And we're talking about achintya guna when we say black, dark. So, Shamalila Avalambam, it's all dependent upon her. So Chakrabarti Thakur, he has that vision. In the first line, he sees, in the first three words, he sees Madhura Rasa. He sees Radha and Krishna, and that from Madhura Rasa, everything is springing from there. As Guru Maharaj said, all the other rasas are clients or satellites and necessary. We should remember that we don't get carried away and thinking like, because someone new to understanding these things might like, well, why would anyone be interested in anything else? That is something innate to the soul. Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi. What that will be, make no assumptions. You can understand this line, the Rupa Nuga line, but in terms of any particular individual, the verse given, and perhaps Sanatan Shiksha, from Mahaprabhu, he's saying, in the Siddha plane, that will come out. Brajalokan Usarata, one will be automatically attracted to pursue the line of devotion of a particular servitor. He doesn't say specifically who that will be or what their position there will be. He's saying just this principle, Brajalokanusarata, that will be there. Right? So there, it's all necessary and beautifully necessary. As Guru Maharaj gave the example of the palate, there must be, we start with the bitter, Then there's the fried, the pungent, the salty, sours, concluding with the sweet. Everything prior to that enhances the introduction of the sweet. They're all necessary. And what would Saraswati Thakur say when he was honoring prasadam? And they'd go, Prabhupada, which deal? And he'd go, each one is better than the other one. Very diplomatic answer. But also the truth. It's also Ramananda Sambad. Jar jay rase hoy se sarvutam. You know, Ramananda Sambad is flowing in him. What did it say there? Each rasa, you think, is better than taste the best. There's nothing that compares to this. We have to carefully consider that. That's what's being said there. Whichever one you're experiencing, you cannot conceive that there could possibly be anything better than this. Hold that thought. Right? Concentrate on that line. And then it will say, but tatasta vichar, but by an impartial analysis, we can observe that Madhura Rasa is the sweetest and includes all of the sentiments that are found and those that precede it. He's saying by an impartial analysis. But the first part is saying, when you're experiencing this, there's no impartial. You're totally satisfied. You can't imagine anything better than that. And it's innate to your soul. Right? Even from the beginning, middle, and Guru Maharaj is saying, according to your inner sincere hankering for connection with truth, right, with the truth, you will necessarily come in connection with a particular level of theistic or theism and subsequent association. This is like a maxim, an all-encompassing maxim from the variegatedness of apparent variegatedness of religious systems in the world to up into the very highest plane. According to your inner sincere hankering, this innate aspect, you will necessarily come in connection with a particular level of theism and subsequent association. It's like an absolute maxim, right? And that is, from Krishna's side, how he's revealing himself to particular devotees. So there, so Chakravarti Thakur extracting that from line 1. Line 2, telling us, Amala Puranam, Kaitavodar, there's no, to enter this plane, there can be no ulterior motive. It cannot be for your purpose. As Guru Maharaj would say, that passport is insufficient. You need a visa. Why are you granted a visa? It's assumed. I mean, you're applying. It's assumed you want entrance into there. Why are you granted a visa is not based on your personal interests. Right? To experience this or that or whatever you might. When that domain sees the value of giving you entrance, when it's in their interest to give you entrance, you're given a visa. So not curiosity seekers or posers, imitationists, etc. But when it's the interest of that plane to give you entrance, what is the nature of that plane? Seva mayoyam loka. it's constructed of serving tendency. Right? Not just consciousness, but consciousness endowed with dedicating tendency, and then again, of the highest capacity. So I'm saying, and the conclusion of the Kalyana Kalpataru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he makes this statement about the Nam Hata of Nityananda Prabhu and calls himself Jaruda, means sweeper. He's saying, so in the Nam Hata, that marketplace of the holy name of Nityananda Prabhu, the humble, he concludes, the humble sweeper, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, It's very beautiful, but also profound. Like, what does the sweeper do? Keeps out the impure things, right? He course-corrected the sampradaya. But the point I want to make right now is that Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said, if Bhaktivinoda Thakur envisions himself as a sweeper, he said, then my aspiration is to be one of the straws in the broom of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So that's what was beautiful has been made to be more beautiful. But then Guru Maharaj extracts this from that, saying, if we take it that this is a sincere statement, which we do, it's not just being clever, it's heartfelt, that he's saying, then it is a heartfelt aspiration of Srila Saraswati Thakur. And that type, it's like, I thought of it too, it's like Trinadapi Sunichena personified. Literally, to become a strong, humbler than a blade of grass. Trina. So he's saying, if we take it as a sincere expression, and we do, he said, then you can understand the unit of the construction of the Swarup. Right? As I've said many times, the body is the biological expression of the soul's delusion. Right? The Swarup is the spiritual form expression of devotion. And Guru Maharaj is saying, and what is it comprised of? Like here, we can talk about what? Quarks, or, if you want to cut to the chase, right? Let's go, quarks. So what are the units of construction of the Swarup? Are these dedicating tendencies to navigate the Seva Mayoyam Loka. So not that one is just curious or interested about these things, but whom Yoga Maya and her organization have observed the growth, development, and fructification of genuine, dedicating, devotional tendencies. That is the construction of the Swarup and can be given entrance in that plane. And Guru Maharaj mentioned when Srila Saraswati Thakur is on the Brajamandal Parikrama and engaged in what he called Ruchi Pariksha, examining the taste of different disciples. So when Srila Guru Maharaj expressed his appreciation for Kadam Kandi, the place of Srila Rupa Goswami, it was noted by Saraswati Thakur, unbeknownst to Guru Maharaj. And then some years later, they're on the Brajamandal Parikrama again, and they're going to Kadam Kandi, and Saraswati Thakur says, your place And Guru Maharaj is saying, why Guru Maharaj is saying that? Why Prabhupada is saying, he realized, he's examining. And that's for him to do. This isn't for amateurs, right? The qualified, Saraswati Thakur. And the point I want to make, Guru Maharaj is saying, for such exalted souls, they can see the Swarup peeping. Anya bilashita shunyam gyanakarma dhyanavritam. When the layers, coverings, are gradually dissolving through, say, association and service, then the Swarup peeping, ruchi pariksha, he's giving some indication. So, koita vadar, no ulterior motive. So first, everything's coming from this plane, but then, how do you get there? No ulterior motive. It can't be an imposition from the lower upon the higher. That's never pure devotion. That's karma kanda. When we're trying to impose our lower conception upon the higher, what pleases us, like the Nija Boge Goranga, Saraswati Thakur saying the flaw in the Amyaniyamai Charit or Lord Gauranga book by Shushir Kumar Ghosh is that he's presenting the Gauranga that pleases him, right? Not the inverse. So then the third, so that's Sambandha Abhideya Prayojan Tattva Sloka Nigama Kalpataror Galitam Palam Shukamukadam Rita Dravar Samyatam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhuraho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. So this Veda, Kalpataru, with those many branches, the floral essence appears in Vedanta, and that flower gives way to the fruit, what Srila Prabhupada called the fully matured, ripened fruit of Vedic literature. See, that's within the Bhagavatam. But what is that? Nigama kalpataror galitam shukamukadam ritradrava samyatam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam. Rasa. It's the point of Srimad Bhagavatam is the fruit, like I've mentioned, the mango tree. If you see a mango tree without mangoes on it, you could take it to be something else. If you try and examine the Vedas, the Puranas, whatever is there, without understanding what the fruit it's meant to produce is, you can be misled, distracted, misread. So as the mango tree, there's only one end there. Whatever you may see, and you see a branch going this way and one's going that way and this is going there and the leaves are going like that. But it only has one purpose, is to produce mangoes. So the Veda Kalpa Vriksha, it only has one purpose. You might think, well, there's this Veda and that Veda and here or that. It only has one purpose, is to produce this fruit, which is Madhura Rasa, which is the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam. And they're going to take you there from cantos 1 through 9 as a prerequisite to enter the 10th canto, where Krishna will appear, literally, metaphorically, ontologically, and every way imaginable, born, 10th canto. And then gradually, 28 chapters leading up to the Rasa Leela. Right, so the crown jewel there. Shama Leela Avalamban, where we find the whole thing. What does Guru Maharaj say? So although her name is not mentioned ostensibly, every step of the way is meant to take us to one place, the service of her holy lotus feet. Radha Dasyam. when I asked about the Kurma avatar, Prishte Brahmyada Mandaragiri Grabhagya Kanduyanan, why does this appear in the last chapter of the Bhagavatam, a reference to the Kurma avatar and the churning of the milk ocean, which is wonderful, but I couldn't understand why it would be included in the last 25, 30 slokas, where you would expect everything to be drawing towards a particular conclusion. And of course it is. Guru Maharaj explained, he said, what was the object of their churning? In general, people say, oh, they want Amrita, they want the nectar of immortality. Right? That's just generic, off-the-shelf Amrita. In the beginning of the Bhagavatam, I already said, Muktir hadvanyata rupam swarupena vivastiti. That after mukti, after liberation, there is swarup, there is form, there is relationship, there's personality, there's loving exchange. And he's saying, so from, an asuric tug of war to get this nectarine substance, Guru is saying, really, and remember, Lakshmi Devi comes out, the Chandra, moon, and, Chandra Vangsha, and Sri, goddess Sri. So he's saying, really what it is telling us the ultimate nectarine substance is Madhura Rasa, as presented in Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, it's just a story, some Puranic legend about the gods and the demons, and they're doing this and that. It has to be on theme. What is the theme of the Bhagavatam? It tells in the very beginning, Nigama Kalpataror Galitampulam Shukamukha Amrita. Shukadeva Goswami not interested in immortality. So it's saying the ultimate nectarine substance is Madhura Rasa, Shama Lila Avalambam, and it's all dependent upon her. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavitabhis Tabirya Eva Nijarupa Daya Kalabi. As Krishna has expansions, she has. All the Braja Gopis, the Mahishi Gun queens of Dwaraka, the Lakshmis of Vaikuntha, all come from her. What do you have to understand? Krishna's play, he can do anything. So when he incarnates as Kurma and says, I have an itch on my back and I can't reach it because I'm a turtle, that's a joke. How can he not reach it? First of all, how can he have an itch? And how can he not reach it? And Govardhan, his arms, he receives millions of offerings from everybody. But it's to give us a chance to play with him. So he's saying, I get this itch here, can you scratch my back? And the devotee comes, scratch his back. Now you're in touch with Krishna, scratching his back. So Krishna's playing, and the other boys tell his mother that he was eating dirt. And she called, Gopal, come here right now. And he comes, yes, mother. And he said, the other boy said, you're eating earth. And he goes, they're lying. He goes, it's because I was defeating everybody and they're angry at me and they want to get me in trouble with you. So they made up this story about I'm eating earth. It's a complete lie. There's no truth. And she's saying, really? And he says, yeah, you can look in my mouth and see if there's any earth. He opens his mouth and she sees the earth planet. And all the planets. And then the universe. Then all the universes. And what she saw, Vishwanath explained, it was not exact, he opened the mouth, but it was in his belly. Which makes more sense. Because the belly's bigger and rounder. I mean, you're going to have universes probably in there, because the mouth is so small. So it's in his belly where all these universes are. And she sees she's in there too, with him. And it's like very bewildering. And she's like, and for one moment he thinks, I think he's my son and I'm his mother, but he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the source of all universes and everything. Just for a moment. And she like shakes her head. Because her motherly love and affection is so great, she can't sustain that thought. That thought is just a flash. It's crazy. Go Paul! And we're told, a cat nearby goes, and he grabs his mother's and it's sprayed, and she goes, that's my boy. What is this other stuff? I'm hallucinating. Seeing these other, what is that? Here, go Paul, come and suck my breast milk. So here it says that so the gopis, it says that when Krishna is caught in his naughty activities, like he's stealing yogurt from other people's houses. Remember, the other gopis, they come and tell Yashoda, your son is stealing, she's a queen of cowherds. Your son is stealing milk and yogurt in our house. Like in the morning when everybody's sleeping. But what's interesting, when they make these complaints, they're in the form of songs. So they're singing these complaints and dancing, and like a Broadway show. And then Yashoda, she says, I have a suggestion. Put some butter and yogurt on your table that's visible, so then he can see it and then not break the pots and steal and do. You leave something out for him and he'll take that. And they said, no, you don't understand. Your son likes stealing. He doesn't like that. He wants to steal things. He wants to take other people's property. So Krishna owns everything. It's impossible for him to steal. But that's his play. So he's going to steal from you. Like, when a child is with the parents, everything there belongs to the parents. But the child, like if the child says, oh, this tastes so nice, Father, you try this. That will melt the heart of the father or the mother. They made that, it belongs to them. But because it's saturated with the love and affection of the child, their heart is melting. And it tells them, oh mother, try this, it's so good. She made it, she supplied it, she knows all about it. But because of the affection of the child, it tastes even sweeter. So Krishna likes to steal things. That's his play, to pretend. So, you understand, it's drama. So, when Krishna takes someone else's wife, right, they belong to him. So I was preaching in Calcutta once, and Madhusudana Maharaj knows this very well, the Esplanade. So I'm at the Esplanade, right, downtown by the post office and everything else. So, it's funny, remember, I'm a white man, dressed like this, preaching about Krishna, and there's a Christian preacher there, an Indian. He's preaching about the Bible and Jesus and all that stuff. And then he sees me. And so there's like a conflict is set up. And we start talking, and I'm out preaching to people. I've got my little kit with me, and we start talking a little bit, and he goes, hello, my name is John Thomas. And oh, my name is Dear Krishna, John Thomas. Right. And so we start talking about everything, and we're trying to agree, and then the poison comes out. He says, at first I should say, a group of people, this happens in India, they're watching us, go back and forth. Now there's around 500 people sitting there, and some, like for me, they're going back, they're like, it's like they're watching a fight. And they're all excited, and then he says, What I want to know is, why is Lord Krishna dancing with other men's wives? Then I turn to the crowd and I go, oh, now the poison has come out. They're like, acha baba, acha, because now we see he's been polluted. He thinks it's Krishna's doing something wrong. Because it appears that Krishna is doing something wrong. But how can the absolute good do anything wrong? It's not possible. Whatever he does is good. So Guru Maharaj says in Search for Sri Krishna, autocrat, despot, liar about Krishna. He's an autocrat, whatever, he just does what he wants to. A despot, if we try to stop his despotism, we suffer. Because he's the absolute good. And then the devotee is listening to this, he goes, okay, autocrat, but liar? And Guru Maharaj goes, yes, because you're not ready to hear the truth. He's adopted the position of a liar to entice you. Guru Maharaj just tells you the straight truth. And you can either handle it or not. But he tells you the straight truth. So then I say to the crowd, when he says that, I go, aha, now it's like I'm playing to them. Aha, now he's come out. The cat has come out of the bag. And I turned to him and I said, why are you taking one of Krishna's gopis for your wife? You understand? They all belong to Krishna. I'm saying, and you're trying to take one of the gopis for your enjoyment, and who is meant for Krishna's enjoyment. And the people, acha baba, they like what I'm saying. And this can only happen in India. I start preaching to him, and the man goes, I'm sorry, I don't know these things. I have not studied properly. Only in India would a man have enough courage and humility to admit defeat. You don't get this stuff in the Bible, folks. So anyway, here it says, so when they catch him, they say, you are a thief. And they're acting angry at Krishna. And he says, Krishna will say, I'm not a thief, you are a thief, like I told that man. You see? What I told is the truth. It may sound funny, humorous, rude, offensive, whatever. What I said is what Krishna said. They're saying he's a thief. He said, no, you are a thief. He cannot steal anything. How can he steal his own property? Can you steal your hat? If I take your hat from you, right? You're wearing a hat. If I take it from you and I'm wearing it, and you take it back, are you stealing? No, it's your hat. I am the thief. So Krishna says, you are a thief. Sometimes being angry, Krishna passes urine and stool in neat, clean places in our houses. But now Yashoda. So they're saying, in our house, what is that? There's a pile of stool there. They go, Krishna. Krishna's been here. Then they say, but Yashoda, that expert thief right now is sitting next to you like he's a good boy. He's smiling and lotus eyes and everyone like, oh, he's so beautiful. He can poop in my house. The gopis, they look at him and he's sitting there looking fearful. And his mother would not chastise him. When they saw Krishna's beautiful face, instead of chastising him, they would simply look upon his face and enjoy it. They're like, they can't say anything against him. Anything. I'm a good boy. And then Mother Yashoda would smile and would not want to chastise him either. So we see her run after him, but when she gets there, she goes, no, come on my lap and suck my breast. And Krishna said, I'm a good boy. I know you are. That's Krishna's pastime. So it says, Chakravarti Thakur says, the gopis say, oh Yashoda, oh famous one. Her name is Yasha, means fame. Yashoda means one who gives fame. Oh, famous one, you appear very blissful on hearing about these pastimes of your son. We're telling you how bad he is, and it seems to be giving you more and more joy. Like, tell me more. What else did he do? And then say, it is not only that he steals, he also passes stool and urine in the room. And where? In the temple room, where you're like supposed to worship. Not somewhere else. That's where he passes stool and urine. And contaminates it. He also pulls the lady's hair. He goes up behind her and pulls them. Ow! Ow! And he's pulling their hair. Then he takes their saris and pulls them, and their clothes start coming off. And he kicks them. Like he goes up and kicks someone and says, wow! What are you doing? And he says, I want to marry you. And they go, really? Yes. For so long in my heart, you know. And then he says, and in the future, my sons will bring you lots of wealth and money. And they're like, really?
Yes.
And he says, now he is stealing yogurt. This is the point. They go, now he's stealing yogurt, but when he grows up, he will steal others' money. And why? But now he looks very innocent in front of you. Then he says, now the result of the gopis' criticism is stated. Thinking Yasoda might beat him, Krishna showed fear in his eyes, and his beautiful face trembled. The gopis could not help but look at Krishna's charming face. Everything was told to Yashoda, who had become blissful on seeing Krishna's face, which is illuminated with different emotions. And by hearing about his wonderful pranks, Yashoda simply beamed a wide smile, and she harbored no desire to chastise her son. Yashoda thought, let the gopis drown in bliss by my son's mischief-making, and when such incidents are reported to me, let those stories drown me in bliss also. It says, though not explicitly stated here, this mood should be understood. That's the glories of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Very simple thing, this is what he's extracting from there. So when Goswami Maharaj said to Gurudev, you have surpassed Vishwanath. That's why it's such a high compliment. Vishwanath, he tells the simplest thing, and I'll demonstrate. I mean, we just did, but this is the best, right here. Nice. This one. This is just a simple one. Remember, the whole purpose of the Bhagavatam is to deliver Madhura Rasa. That means eroticism. In the spiritual world, there is eros. That's where it comes from. It's not that it's just here for us, and up there they're sitting around meditating on nothing, or the sound of one hand clapping, or some abstract. Really? No. What's the whole thing that's driving the world? In a word, sex. Right? But the monks are the people who give up sex. Right? So they're honored. In this world where everyone's addicted to sex, they voluntarily give it up. We go, all right, we respect that. But we can't do that. So, and we will never do that. Because the monks don't get to do that. Right? But what you're being told here, yes, in this world, the monks strictly avoid that. But not in the spiritual world. It's the opposite. They are girls. And they're playing with Krishna in these ways. So in the Gita, it says Tudshanti cha Ramanti cha. And one of the nutshell slokas saying, when the devotees are talking about Krishna, not only do they experience like joy, but also erotic pleasure by having these discussions. And is it the same as the one here we're talking about before? He says no. Rupa Goswami in the Book of Devotion says, Brahmananda Bhavedesha Cheparada Gunikrita Naiti Bhakti Sudhir Paramanu Talamapi. Generally taken, sex is the highest pleasure in the material world. Number one, starting there. But we're told, these yogis, they give up sex. We're told, if that sex comes in their mind, they're like, ah. So we think, what are they experiencing that when they recall sexual pleasure, like that, that's what they do, is spit. So they're saying, well wait, then they must be experiencing a pleasure that's greater than that. And not only greater, but the thought of the other one makes them spit. So that's called Brahmananda. Brahma means spirit, Ananda means pleasure. So Brahmananda that's the pleasure that the yogis and the Buddhas and they're all experiencing. And it's so great. They're so happy. They don't care for sex. Right. But Rupa Goswami is saying something very interesting in his book. Because in the Krishna world, there is eros. Right? It's just in this world, it's a polluted and polluting thing. Right? And tamagun. So, he says, Brahmananda Bhavedesha Chetparada Gunikita Naiti Bhakti Sukham Bodhe. The pleasure of Krishna consciousness is millions of times greater than Brahmananda. So what those great monks and they're all experiencing, he's saying, a drop of this is 10 million times greater than the pleasure they're experiencing. So if nothing else, that should awaken the curiosity within them. Like, is that really possible? Come on. I mean, that's kind of wild. As an advertisement. You say, that enjoyment you're having? Yes, we do. Right? This is 10 million times. A drop of this is greater than an ocean of that multiplied 10 million times. You go, well, sign me up for the seminar. So, why did I say that? Because, so the whole is to take you in connection with that substance. So, the book is 18,000 verses. Said to be like a sun, but a sun with 18,000 rays. Right? So, because if we hear about Radha and Krishna and Braja Gopis, their erotic pastimes, we'll think it's like men and women in this world. And that's very bad. That's very offensive to think like that. Because it's not. Remember, they don't have material bodies. They have bodies, but they're not made out of flesh. So how can it be like here? It's not. But it's there. So how are we going to go from here to there? So this is in the 10th out of 12, the 10th volume. Right? So in other words, there's like 15,000 verses before you get to this. And what does this start with? What we were just talking about. Krishna's a child, showing these tendencies. That's why the person said, alright, well, he may be stealing yogurt now, but when he grows up, he's going to steal money and men's wives. That's what the person said. And that's the fact. That's the truth. So they're gradually preparing us for that. Slowly, slowly, slowly. So we understand, Krishna, he's the original Supreme Personality of Godhead. Everything he does is absolutely good, including pastimes of eros, divine love. Right? So this is where they're going to meet in the forest and have this beautiful singing and dancing. And listen to just one verse. And what Vishwanath said. He says, and he's setting the stage for the evening. Because when Krishna wants to enjoy this way, like a king, he has many surrounding him. They're called Shaktis. Lila Shakti, sons of Vishnu, and saying, so he said the Yogamaya. He gives a look, like, and she's like, all they do is have to look at each other. And she understands. So she's saying, alright, Krishna wants to dance rasa. So we're gonna need some, and we need some gopis. We need to play, like, she set the whole thing up. Have to have a stage, the Jamuna, banks of the Jamuna River, gopis who are qualified to be in the selecting. And Vishwanath says, like, if a king says, I want to eat mangoes, right, to the chef. Chef says, okay, and goes collects a bunch of mangoes. He says, alright, these are good right now. Right? Put those up. This one needs a little more sun. This one probably a week, separates them. So Yogamaya collects all these gopis, inconceivably beautiful girls, and says, this one's ready to go tonight. Her, not. So this one will want to go, but cannot. Cannot, as the Thai say. Cannot. And has to stay home. Yeah, they die. And that ignites a fire in their heart that brings them to the finishing stage. The heat of the fire of that separation brings them to a finishing stage. So it was good they had to stay home. It's all good. So anyway, the stage is being set, and this is a very simple verse. It says, the moon then rose, anointing the face of the eastern horizon. This is poetry. So saying the moon rose in the sky, anointing the face of the eastern horizon with the reddish hues of his comforting rays, thus dispelling the pain of those who watched him rise. So saying the moon is rising, and feeling like, oh, thank God. Then the moon was like a beloved husband who returns after a long absence from his wife, his beloved wife, with red kumkum. Because the women, they wear red kumkum. They wear here, and they wear on their feet in different places. So then here's Vishwanath's explanation. The inconceivably wonderful Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, who wrote the Guruvastakam, among other things. When Krishna became inclined to enjoy under the spell of time and place, at that moment, the moon, finding an opportunity to render service, Krishna's expressed a desire. Now the moon says, I want to be part of it. What can I do? Well, you can rise in the sky and provide moonlight. Okay, I'll do that right now. Then, and rose in the eastern direction with its pleasing rays of light. The rising of the moon, who is known as the Udaraja, the king of the stars. The moon's the king of the night. Was another cause for inflaming the passionate desires. Like when all the romantic stuff happened? In the nighttime, under moonlight. The romantic moon, right? Honeymoon. Guru Maharaj talking about honeymoon. He knew about everything. In addition to being a stimulator of conjugal feelings, the moon also served Krishna and the gopis by illuminating their pleasure pastime with brilliant light. So this rasa dance that's going to happen, it's all illuminated by moonlight. So the moon is serving by offering its light. When a lover meets his beloved after a long separation, he colors her face with kumkum. Like when the Russians meet, they offer bread and salt.
And a ball.
But he's saying, so the woman, understand, the woman, she's holding a tray with red powder on it. And the man comes, he hasn't seen her in a long time. He touches the comb and starts putting on her face, like making her look more beautiful. Right? Then it says, similarly, the moon rising. So the moon colored the face of the western, moon rises in the east and is coloring the face of the western direction. Right? With the red, so the moon's shining on the west, then he says, the moon removes the discomfort caused by the heat of the sun from all men. And blah, blah, blah. But here's what I want to say. It'll come later, I think. But here's the thing. The western direction is a wife who's not the moon's wife. Everything's personified. So the moon rose in the east and shined put the red kumkum on the western direction, who's the wife of Indra, not the moon's wife. So it's telling you that this is going to happen. See how subtly, gradually, just by inference, you're being told that someone who's not the husband of certain wives is going to anoint them with happiness and pleasure. That's the first verse, right? But all it said is the moon rose in the sky. So how does Vishwanath Chakravarti know all these things? If he's not in fact a gopi there. Only a gopi could have this insight. So he says, the idea of this verse, like Vishwanath is saying this with a straight face. The moon god, the very founder of the dynasty in which Krishna appeared. Remember the milk ocean? What came out of the ocean? The moon and Lakshmi Devi. And I saw this in Phnom Penh, because they have some of the Angkor Wat stuff. And when I saw Lakshmi Devi rising from the milk ocean, I went, aha. Because see again, the moon comes out of the milk ocean and Lakshmi Devi comes. And what is it telling you? Amrita, that what Guru said, the ultimate nectarine substance is Madhura Rasa, and the representative of the moon, who is Krishna, and the representative Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi, Radharani, they're going to have divine pastimes union. That's what it is. It's always about this one thing. But and see how carefully, gradually, subtly it's expressed. So he says, the idea of the verse is, the moon god is the founder of the Chandra Vangsha, the moon dynasty. Like in China, don't they talk about sun and moon? Yeah. Right. So here it is. And the most ancient leader of the Brahmin community possesses many wives of his own who are all quite fit to be enjoyed. Yet, he is touching the face of the western direction, who is another's wife, Indra. The western direction is Indra's wife. So why is the moon putting kumkum on her face? But all it said was the moon rose, and Vishwanath, he's like extracting all this nectar. This is his interpretation. And once you hear it, you can't think of anything else. So then he says, by touching her, the moon god is also making her attracted to him. This verse hints that if this is the case with the moon god, the leader of Krishna's dynasty, then certainly there is no fault in Krishna, a descendant of the moon god, enjoying with the gopis. He's in the Chandra Vangsha, the moon is saying, no problem here, nothing to see here, move along. Then it says, after all, Krishna is a fresh youth, intoxicated with the beauty of its human form, and he is an unmarried member of the cowherd community. Besides, Krishna is so uniquely enchanting that he excites all women in the universe. Next verse. That's one. That's enough for today.
You know the moment.
We need to calm down here. Kamandatama Prem Nirmala Bhaskar. Kam, lust, is like dense darkness, and Prem, Nirmal Bhaskar, pure sunshine, dense light. North Pole, South Pole. Remember I said they're very similar, but North Pole, South Pole, worlds apart. Atmendriya Priti Ichadari Bolikam, Krishnendriya Priti Ichadari Premanam. Self-satisfaction, self-centeredness, egocentricity, calm, lust. Krishnendriya, trying to please the senses of Krishna. Prem. Sarvapadi vinirmuktam tatparatena nirmalam rishikena hrishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchite. Narada Pancharatra. What is pure devotion? Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karmadhyanavartam anukulyena krishnanushilanam bhakti ruttama. What's pleasing to Krishna? So the Braja Gopis decorate themselves for the pleasure of Krishna. They look good for the pleasure of Krishna. We try to make ourselves look good to present ourselves to the deity. We're going to go for the dark. The deity can see us more than we can see the deity. We have very limited capacity. On the basis of what we heard, we're saying, well, Guru, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vaishnava, Krishna's in the deity, we're bowing. And sometimes by the grace of the Lord and His devotees, something may appear in your heart. But don't doubt the deity's capacity to see you. Everything the Braja Gopis do is for the pleasure and satisfaction of Krishna, including offering themselves to Him. And their bodies are not made of mundane substance. Vaikuntir pritivyadi sakala chinmoy. Even the soil of the spiritual world is made out of chinmoy, spiritually enriched, dedicating consciousness. What to speak of the divine feet of the divine maidens traversing that sacred soil. And Guru Maharaj will say, of those sages, they're hearing from Sukadeva Goswami, speaking of these things to Parikshit Maharaj, and he said, it's one thing. It was radical enough, revolutionary enough for you to tell us that the Supreme Entity is like a human being. Krishnera Jateka Kela Savartam Naralila Naravapu Tahara Swarup Gopavesh Venukar Navakishore Natabar Naralila Hoy Anurup. So we're told, the poet who said, human conception is higher than God. And all the humanists were like, yes. But I didn't realize what he's saying is, there's the general God conception of majesty and infinite magnitude. But the human-like conception of God is higher than that. That's Krishna conception. That's the domain of Krishna conception, is the human-like pastimes. In fact, Guru Maharaj says, Krishna's divine civilization provides the template for human civilization. So, those sages say, it's shocking enough for you to suggest we conceive of the supreme entity in human terms? It's beyond what Einstein could conceive. It's beyond what Stephen Hawking can conceive. That the ultimate reality, the central conception of the absolute, the golden mean of the infinite is human-like in size and expression. So they said, that is radical enough, but that you're telling us not only is he a man, but he's an immoral man. That's too much. Now you've gone too far. So Pariksit Maharaj, seeing the shocked look and apprehension on their faces, has to say, in the beginning, use the word jukupsidam, saying, Narada chastising Vyas. So we're told, what was Vyasa's crime? Delivering religion. And now you're telling us what we should be accepting is what appears to be irreligion. So what Vyas did, now you're saying, this is in a sense irreligious. And now you're saying, what's the real religion? Is the seemingly immoral pastimes of Krishna. That's religion, real religion. And what looks like religion, we're to give up. They're working together, Sukadeva and Pariksit Maharaj. And so Sukadeva, he has to speak about the Ishwaras, Shiva and the ocean of poison, and different things to remind them. Bikreditam braja badu idam cha Vishnu. When he mentions the pastimes he just expressed, he uses the word Vishnu instead of Krishna to remind them who is engaged in these pastimes is God. Sometimes Vishnu just means God. These are not the pastimes of a lusty boy. They're the pastimes of the supreme reality. Mahaprabhu chooses to have his devotees express the essence of Krishna consciousness. He's also, when he's talking to Sanatan, Rupa Siksha, Sanatan Shiksha, but he is always shining a spotlight on the devotion of other devotees, which is, again, a core devotional principle, to appreciate the devotion of others. What is the Brihad Bhagavatamritam structure, in one sense? The Narada, expressing appreciation for one devotee. Who could be more fortunate than you? Oh, me, I'm nothing. You should go to this devotee. Each one being praised, deferring that praise to Guru, to higher. Then praise Narada, going there, praising them. They're deferring to higher. Always. That's the system. Pratishta is for Gurudev. They keep going higher and higher and higher. So, but one thing we take away from that, and it's mentioned by Rupa Goswami and the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, the hallmark of devotion is to appreciate devotion in others. So Mahaprabhu, that Ramananda Sambad, extracting from Ramananda, Sancharja Rama Abhide Bhakta Meghe, Bhakti Siddhanta Chayamritani. But another part of Charitamritam, which is very, it's succinct and beautiful, is when he meets Raghupati Upadhyay. Right? And it's, in one sense, it is absolutely amazing that in one sloka, he takes you there. Right? In three, everything. But the leap, talking about crossing over, the leap in this one sloka, it's reminiscent of the Vaikuntas Janito Vara Madhupuri, Tatrapi Rasotsava Arupa Goswami and Upadeshamritam Guru Maharaj said, he, Sanatana Goswami, Brihad Bhagavatamritam, step by step by step by step by step, and that's necessary as a Sabandha Jnana Charja, saying Rupa Goswami, he leapt from Vaikuntha to in a single bound. Vaikuntha Janido Bara Madhupuri means Vaikuntha over Ayodhya and Dwaraka to Mathura, Madhupuri. So in this exchange of Raghupati Upadhyay and Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu again so here's Krishna, right, enveloped by the heart and halo of Radharani, and saying, all right, tell me, you're Upadhyaya, you know all the scriptures, extract from there. Tell me what you've been able to ascertain is the way, or the most important thing we should get from there. And what did he say? Shruti means, remember, Vedas Upanishad. Shrutim apare, smritim itare, Bharatam means Mahabharata. So he's saying the Shrutis, the Upanishads, the Puranas, etc., including Mahabharata, Bharatam, anye, bhajantu bhavabhita. Bhav, in this sense, means this world. Right? And saying, fear of this world. Why are we afraid of this world? Pan to someone wearing a mask. You understand. Our mortality is being threatened at every moment, knowingly or unknowingly. If the world didn't become something new in the last 2 months, it's always consistently been the world of mortality. Right? And we don't need to go into more of that, but it's just people became more woke to the concept of like how fragile we are in our existence. Right? And we may not have as much time as we think we do. So maybe we should reconsider life's purpose, ultimate purpose, Shreya Uttamam. So Bhava means, so what is the reason most people approach the scriptures? And we remember, we're talking about no ulterior motive. You're saying usually it's out of fear of material existence. What's the fear? That it will end. And that's anathema, or horrifying to the eternal soul to contemplate extinction. That's why we're so afraid of death. We're eternal by nature. The idea that you will stop existing is horrifying. Right? Tantarajan Murisheti Pashubudhimi Mamjahe. After all is spoken about with Sukadev, so Purgat Maharaj, don't think like an animal that you'll die. Animals are like that. Pashubudhi. That's animal intellect. You're better than that. You know, and of course he is. Purgat Maharaj, we're told at the beginning of Brihad Bhagavatamritam, he's shutting down turning off the senses when Uttara comes running and says, son, I know you just heard the Bhagavatam from Sukadev. Can you share some of this nectar with your mother? He said, oh, you just made it in time. So out of fear, so one famous comedian who was sort of like an avowed atheist, his friends were surprised to see him reading the Bible in his later days, and they go, Bill, what are you doing? He said, looking for loopholes. Like, I've done so many wrong things. I'm looking for loopholes. So Raghupati Upadhyaya is saying, out of fear of what's coming, the soul will become extinct, or I will recede into lower species, or what's all the different concerns that might be, or an end to my happy life here. Therefore, they're looking for loopholes, or they're studying, the statements of the Vedas, the Puranas, the Upanishads, contemplating, reading Mahabharata, trying to extract it just from there. The Gita is also there. And then, but this is what I mean about the leap. Right? This is really the ultimate proverbial leap of faith. Bharatamanye bhajantu bhavabhita ahangiha nandam bande. It's very beautiful poetry. Ahang iha nandam bande yasyalande param brahma. He said, so to deal with the anxiety and perplexity and the fear of material existence, they're trying to find out, how do you link up with the Param Brahma, the Supreme Spirit? We're told we're all spiritual beings, but the Supreme Spirit, right? The Param Brahma, the Supreme Lord, the Infinite. So is the key there in the Shruti, and the Upanishads, the Smriti, and Mahabharata, and where do we find, how will we do that? And he's saying, but Raghupati Upadhyaya says, but what I want to know is, I see that that Param Brahma, whom they all are seeking, he's crawling as a toddler in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. What astonishing thing is that? So I'm saying to myself, well, what did Nanda Maharaj do? Like, in other words, what is that? When you have someone in the palm of your hand, you're saying, he's crawling in this courtyard as a baby. What did he do to achieve that? That's what I'd like to know. So just imagine, he's gone from the Shrutis, like Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashanti Sura, to Vatsalya Rasa, if you want to be more specific. From there to Vatsalya Rasa, not only Vatsalya Rasa, one step removed. And how perfect is that? Right? And it reminds us of the when Sukadeva Goswami, Pariksit Maharaj, is making certain observations. And he says, Nanda kim akarod brahmam sreya eva mahodayam yashodava mahabhaga papo yasyastanam hari. He's also saying, like, this Nanda Maharaj, Nanda kim akarod, what did he do to achieve this position? How fortunate, Nanda kim akarod sreya eva mahodaya, the ultimate expression of good fortune, that he's got this situation, that Krishna, he's Nanda Nandan. And then he says, Yashodava Mahabhaga. And if we can conceive of it, then if Krishna's crawling in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj is indicative of this inconceivably good fortune of his, what sort of hankering does he have that brought this about? Right? What's his loyum? Then Yashoda, that Param Brahma crawling there, is crawling on her to her lap and sucking her breast milk. Yashodava Mahabhaga Papo Yasya Stanam Hari. So just see, again, another connecting thread. Sukadeva Pariksit, Raghupati Upadhyaya. But Raghupati Upadhyaya, remember, to get to that part, 9 cantos prerequisite. Now understand something about the teachings of Mahaprabhu. Right? Raghupati Upadhyaya is taking you there in half a sloka, in a sloka. What the Bhagavatam took 9 cantos into the 10th to bring you to this point. That's his starting point. This is Mahaprabhu, like Guru Maharaj said. It's the elevator that goes from lowest position, shoots up to the highest, to the top part. the top of the structure. So Mahaprabhu was like, Age, dive deep into, go deeper. This is great, anymore, And that's when he says that verse Gurudev loved so much, presented at the inauguration of the ISKCON Chandradoya Mandir. What is it? Kam prati katayitam ishe, sam prati koba pratitamayatu, gopa tanaya kunje, gopa viduti vitang brahma. Gopa tanaya kunje, gopa viduti vitang brahma. So that Brahma, that Param Brahma again. He's saying, oh, Prabhu, who can I tell who would believe me? You say more. There is more to say, but would anyone believe it? And is there anyone qualified to receive it? Right, so he's going very deep. Right, that one sloka, all the way from the Shrutis into Vatsalya Rasa, now we could expect where it would go next. And he's saying that Param Brahma, who we mentioned before, well, when he grows up, well, first he's toddler with then he has pastimes as a boy with his cowherd boyfriends. But then when he's a teenager, his pastimes with who will believe this? And who is there anyone who is qualified to hear something like this without misconceiving? That Param Brahma, he's hunting the gopi girls, Radharani and her Braja gopis in the Kunja of Vrindavan, Tanaya Kunje, Gopa Viduti, Bitang Brahma. Then Guru Maharaj mentioned, he said, and apparently wrote this for an article in Sri Gaudiya Math, he said that, yes, there's no one qualified to hear it, no one will believe it, but the descent of Mahaprabhu is the magnanimous distribution of his divine substance. He will qualify people to believe it and receive it, to receive it and believe it. So then, Mahaprabhu says, all right, now he's captured, saying, so then, just tell me this. Again, what you've been able to extract, all the scriptures and everything that is of value there. What is the supreme abode? The supreme form of the Lord, the supreme abode, the supreme age, and the ultimate rasa. So think about it. And I just, to stop for a moment. So this is Krishna, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, enveloped by the heart and halo of Radharani. These are the things he wants to know. This is what he thinks is important. Should we look elsewhere? Right? Should we make an independent study of what we can discern should be the topics of consideration? Really? This is Krishna himself as Mahaprabhu, and enveloped in the devotion, the heart and mood of Radharani. These are the things he wants to know. These are the things he wants to give emphasis to. They're saying, so what is the supreme form? I know many things are described, but tell me, what is the supreme form, the supreme abode, the supreme age, and the supreme rasa? This I want to know. And then he says, Shyama eva param rupam, puri marupuri bura, kaishoram, what is that? Kaishora kam deyam, adyo rasa, paro rasa. Yeah. Shyama eva param rupam, yang shyama sundaram achintaguna svarupam. Right? Shyama Sundar Krishna, his achintaguna swarup. Kandarpa koti kamani avishesha shobha, more beautiful than 10 million cupids. condensed into one. Puri Madhupuri Bara. Madhupuri means Mathura. But interesting, there's also Madhu Puri, the land of what? Of sweet. What kind of sweetness? That's a general, sweetness. What is sweetness? Madhura. Madhura rasa. You say, well, I thought that's, Mathura means Mathura, Vrindavan, Govardhan, Radha Kunda. Kishore, right? That Nava Yovana, Krishna, Adyam Purana Purusham Nava Yovanam Cha. Although he's the oldest of all, don't have some ridiculous stereotype about that. Because he's the oldest, he's an old, very old man, with a long beard, because he's the oldest person. Please. Adyam Purana Purusham. Yeah, he's the original person, the oldest. And what? Navayovanamcha. Eternally beautiful, youthful, like a teenage boy. An inconceivably beautiful teenage boy. Right? And and Adyo Rasa Eva Pura, what Paro. I mean, Sapara. And Adi Rasa, back to Vishwanath, Janmadyasya Yataha. Everything is springing from that plane. The original, the supreme rasa of all rasas is Madhura Rasa. And that's the subject matter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, to take, as the Guru said, from the plane of, ontology to the domain of rasa. And that is what is being distributed by Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And is the really the basis of the modern day Krishna consciousness movement. This is what is meant to be distributed, but to achieve some appreciation for that, or as, if you will, hankering, hunger for that, you have to come in connection with someone who has genuine appreciation for that. Saru Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Labamatra Saru Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. A moment's association with such a person can awaken this tendency. And what does that association mean? Service. Mahat Sevam Dwara Mahur Vimukte. For association to be meaningful, there has to be service. And service has to be without ulterior motive. Just for the pleasure who is being served. And the remuneration is the sort of devotional hankering, hunger, appreciation in the heart of that divine servitor is transferred to the aspiring servitor. Srila Guru Maharaj said also in that Brajamando Parikrama, he said our Guru Maharaj's statements were mostly revolutionary. Right? And he, having completed the Dham Parikrama with Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, heard from him and reiterated to his disciples the statement. He said, you all know Vrindavan is for the shallow, hollow thinkers. A man of real bhajan will prefer Kurukshetra. And in Srila Guru Maharaj's words, he said, I fell as if out of the top of a tree. That's what his response to hearing that was. Just think about that. So he is one of the senior disciples of Srila Saraswati who can interpret what he means. When Srila Saraswati Thakur would give lectures, afterwards, 2 or 3 devotees would have to explain what he just said to everyone who was there. Guru Maharaj was one of them. So we would explain And this is a group of people born in Bengal, Gautamandal, they know Sanskrit, they studied Sanskrit in school, they were brought up in Vaishnava families. He had to explain to them what Saraswati Thakur had just spoken. They're simple-hearted Vaishnavas, they're listening, but Guru Maharaj is there to explain. And that Guru Maharaj, our Guru Maharaj, when he heard this statement from Saraswati Thakur, he said, I fell as if out of the top of a tree. That up to this point we're hearing, Vrindavan, that's the highest place, reserved for the highest section of liberated souls, the greatest devotees of Krishna. And now a Guru Maharaj is saying, that's for shallow, hollow people. And a caution here, this is highly contextual, these sentiments being expressed. And then he explains why, and Kurukshetra, that will be the place. I think, oh, Kurukshetra, but that's Bhagavad Gita? No, not Bhagavad Gita, Kurukshetra. The Kurukshetra where Krishna, queens of Dwarka, they go to Kurukshetra from the solar eclipse, and Radharani and Braja Gopis come from Vrindavan, and they meet there after 100 years of separation. So the parallel being, Vrindavan is land of union. Here is not only separation, but separation at its zenith point. And Guru Maharaj introduced this expression saying, service, according to the intensity of its necessity, draws remuneration. Service, according to the intensity of its necessity, draws remuneration. The necessity, the intensity of necessity has reached its zenith point in Kurukshetra because of 100 years of separation. For the same Braja Gopis who cannot tolerate the blink of an eye's separation from Krishna. Right? Just as it's mentioned, Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, in the Bhagavatam, that the Rasa Leela is a night of Brahma. Sahasra Yuga Parjantam Ahoryat Brahmano Vidu means 1,000 yuga cycles. It means 4,300,000,000 years. When Krishna surveyed this scene and gave the indications to Yogamaya to cast and script Rasa Leela, how do you say, 4,300,000,000 nights were combined as one. So we see in Krishna Leela the expansion and contraction of time and space being employed in divine pastimes. And that book published by Sripad Bhakti Premik Siddhanti Maharaj, collecting the talks of Srila Bhakti Sudhir Goswami Maharaj, Religion of the Heart, mentions perhaps near the beginning this as a Chandidas, I think, Shamanam, focusing, Radharani will never be satisfied by any amount of union with Krishna, nor the Braja Gopis. There's not some point where they say, oh, now we've had enough. They will always be left in the hankering position for more. So what is their impression after the Rasa Leela of 4,300,000,000 year night? They're saying, it was like the blink of an eye. It went so fast. What happened? Now we're left here hankering. So that's one direction. On the other side, separation. Atati adbhavan anikananam trutiryu gayate tamapashatam kutilakuntalam srimukham jate yada udikshitam pakshma kridrisham. In the Gopi Gita, they say, they're cursing Brahma the creator. And you think, the audacity, these are teenage girls, and they're nice girls. They're well behaved. They do everything properly, but their heart the flow of their hearts cannot be restrained, constrained. They can't conceal their anger, upset towards Brahma, the creator, for making eyes that blink. They're thinking he's stupid, right? That he made eyes that blink. He doesn't know how to make eyes properly. They should not blink, because when they blink, then we're not seeing Krishna. Right? And what does it say? Trutir yugayate tvamapasyatam. There's the word yuga, and they're saying, and what is that blinking, the moments of separation from Krishna like? Like a yuga, sahasra yuga, like a day of Brahma, night of Brahma. It's intolerable. So it shows the comparative relative intensity of separation versus union. All of that union was like the blink of an eye. The blink of an eye in separation is like forever. It's more intense. So then what to speak of 100 years of separation? Inconceivable. And at last they're meeting. This opportunity, how much anticipation, eagerness for that moment, and at last it has come, and Krishna is before them, and they cannot conceal their disappointment. Why? Because Shama Sundar Krishna, Shama Goparoop, no. He's not as a Gopa, a cowherd boy, no, like Saki Murali, no, his friend the flute is not there. He's dressed as a king. This is not the Krishna of their hearts. So how come we ever seriously consider any other sort of theistic notion? Right? If Dwaraka Krishna, what to speak of Vaikuntha Narayan, Dwaraka Krishna is not good enough for the Braja Gopis. And there are the leaders of the Krishna consciousness movement. And of course, Radharani has to represent their position. Ahuschite nalina nava padaravindam yogeshware hridivichandamagada bodhai sangsara kupa patito taranavalamvam geham jashamapi manasuryat sadana. She says to Krishna, it's very sweet, she's basically saying like, we're fallen householders. Sangsara Kupa. And there's some town in Bengal. What is the name of that place? It's like Kutamba. Like there's a famous slogan that says, Kutamba Baranenaba, means like the worst type of mundane, like just lost in family life. And that's the name of that village in West Bengal, Kutamba. I thought, they got to be kidding, but they're not. But anyway, so unless they meant it like this, then there's some, the Bengalis are clever. So there could be something else going on there. So, our dandavats to the people of Kutumba. Kutumba Baranenaba, Sukadev. not happy about it. But anyway, she's saying that ahustate nalina nava padarvin, saying all these beautiful things about Krishna, and previously you sent Uddhava to us and told us we should enroll in yoga class and learn how to meditate. God is everywhere. Krishna might have thought that was funny, but they did not laugh. God is everywhere. I mean, it's borderline cruel for Krishna to say, God is everywhere. Learn to meditate. What do you need me for? And he's saying, no, we only need you. We're not yogis. We're not, if any, we look like karmis, I guess. Right? A prakriti lila, just a bunch of karmis absorbed in family life. But the difference is, we want family life with you. That's the difference between us and these so-called karmis. And we'll never be gyanis. We're not interested in meditating. God is everywhere kind of thing. So we did not appreciate that. The letter was ostensibly to make us feel better, and if anything, we were just upset. And you know what we want? We want you. We won't be satisfied with anything less than the return of your lotus feet to Vrindavan. What did we hear before? Radha Padman Kitadam Vrindavan Jaranam Anyara Hridayaman Moraman Vrindavan. It's really the heart of Srimati Radharani, a construct of the heart of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, Krishna can never leave Vrindavan, actually. It's a play to amplify the intensity of emotion and longing, hankering, bring separation to the breaking point, to its death-like intensity, and then Krishna, the big reveal. So she pleased their case to him. And Krishna's response makes her happy. Mai bhakti arhibhutanam amritataya kalpate dishtadmana sinmatsneho bhavatinam madapana. As we conceive, Krishna is responding to that. What do you think? But one case, the karmis, those who are trying to escape impending karmic reaction, right? That's what it means when there's stuff coming on the basis of what I've done, particularly in this life. God knows what I did before. And it's approaching, so then Krishna, save me. Right? That kind of thing. Karmis, Gyanis, they're trying to discern ultimate reality through intellectualism and so this and yogis meditating on the Lord in the heart, Paramatma is their target. Sometimes devotees forget that Paramatma is not the target of the devotees. Bhagavan, proper being Lakshmi Narayan, Rukmini, Dwarkadish, Radhan, Krishna. Paramatma, you don't see Shakti accompanying Paramatma. Upadrashta, overseer, observer, neutral. Not the object of the bhaktas, of bhakti yoga. Premanjana churita bhakti vilochanena santaksadeva hridayeshu vilokayanti. What do the devotees see in their heart of hearts? Yang Shama Sundaram Achintra Gunasvarupam. Not Paramatma, Shama Sundar Krishna. So Krishna's saying, actually, it's good for the karmis to come in connection with me, for the Gyanis to come in connection with me, for the yogis to come in connection with me. That's a fact, an indisputable fact, and understandable. And the inconceivable treasure to be God. You think? But said, I consider it my good fortune. So if anyone gets connected with me, Karmi, Jnani, Yogi, that's their good fortune. But I consider it my good fortune to come in connection with the sort of love and affection that you have for me in your hearts. And Krishna speaking sincerely. He's saying, that for me is the most inconceivable, valuable treasure, what's in your heart. And I cannot live without that for a moment. And although that it appears that I left Vrindavan, I live in Dwarka, actually it's through expansions. And read the Laghu Bhagavatamritam of Rupa Goswami, explains it all there. It's complicated. But I'm always with you. The whole Dwarka thing is a show to bring out this type of love and affection you have for me. I could never leave you for a moment. And when this play is over, I'll be in your midst in a few days. And Radharani says, all right, we can go now. He is always and only ours. And we're told, incidentally, in Garga Samhita, the queens of Dwarka request a Rasa Leela. They've heard about it. And Radharani and some of the Brajagopi, they have a Rasa Leela before them. The queens of Dwarka want to see this. And they're so astonished and offering so much praise. And Radharani says, you should see the original. This is what we could do on short notice in another location. But in the original, Vrindavan, banks of this does not compare to that. Only nothing less than that will satisfy her. So Swayam Bhagavan Krishna as at the right hand of Srimati Radharani. So no one delivers superior quality or quantity of Krishna than her. But her service necessity reaches its greatest intensity in Kurukshetra because she can't meet with Krishna in the desired way. And Guru Maharaj gave that example of the football game, soccer, football, when he's saying the field, when the ball's in the midfield and going this side, that side, back and forth, people are just watching. But if it comes close to the goal and they almost score and just miss the goal, and we've heard it at our London Mott, there on Green Street, there was that, West Ham team would play, and you hear 100,000 people in unison groan. They missed the goal, and you hear, oh! And Devashish Prabhu told me they had a billboard in London that said, some people think football is like life and death. And they said, it's more important than that. They can say that about that. And 100,000 people can groan in unison because they got so close to the goal and just missed. So Guru Maharaj is always giving a perfect example, saying, Radharani and the Braja Gopis, 100 years of separation, they're coming, and there's Krishna, the goal, and they miss. Because it's Dwarka Krishna, not Shama Goparoop, Vrindavan Krishna, in the cowherd dress with his flute on the banks of the Jamuna with all his divine paraphernalia. The sweet sound of his flute and everything else arranged by Yoga Maya. All those Brajagopas, they're groaning, oh, such a great loss. And that's when Krishna said, the kind of love you have for me in my heart, he just said, I reciprocate, but I have to admit my defeat here. I cannot reciprocate even by giving myself to you fully, would not be commensurate to the sort of love and affection you have in your hearts for me. Na pareham nirabhadi samyudam sloka. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur said, at that time, because separation has reached its zenith point, Srimati Radharani is in the greatest need of assistance from her serving group. And he said, so if you can render service at that time in that place under those circumstances, then you draw the greatest sort of remuneration. There's no question of ever descending into this plane ever again. And Guru Maharaj further elucidated this by saying the gratitude of Srimati Radharani to the servitors rendering service at that time is such that the gift exceeds the constitutional capacity of jiva souls. You know, by Rupa Goswami, they can, Mado Shraddha Tatasara Sango Bhajana Kriya Tatonarta Nivritisha Tato Anartha Nivritisha Tato Nishta Ruchi Tata Shakti Tato Bhava Prema Vyun Danchati, Krishna Prem. And how far can they go? Sneho, Man, Rag, Anurag, Bhav, up to the plane of Bhav. But Mahabhav, that is the exclusive domain of Srimati Radharani and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Gomer said, in this instance, Radharani is so pleased by the servitors rendering service at that time that she's distributing Mahabhav to them. What is beyond the constitutional capacity of a jiva to experience, she's giving them a taste of that, saying, here, have a taste of what we're enjoying. And Guru Maharaj said, once experiencing that, not only all other tastes, but all other rasas become tasteless. Right? So Guru Maharaj, in his interpretation on the Gita sloka, raso varjam raso pyasya param drishpan ivartate. What's the superior taste? Chaitanya Lila, Gaur Lila. So the very best thing is being given. When someone heard Guru Maharaj give this most astonishing talk about these slokas and Mahaprabhu and his descent and his gift, Namo Mahavaranaya Krishna Prema Pradayate, Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaura Tushe Namaha. With his mouth left open, astonished, he said, why does Mahaprabhu do this? Give the highest thing to the lowest people. And Guru Maharaj answered by saying, this is the very nature of Sri Chaitanya Avatar. What Krishna has estimated to be the highest thing. So what he understands to be the most valuable thing, that's his idea, to gift that to the most fallen souls. Krishna, Lilamrita Sar Tar Sata Satadar Das Tike Jaha Vaha Hoite Se Chaitanya Lila Hoy Sarovar Akshoy Manasa Charaha Tahate. Krishna Lila is reserved for the highest section of liberated souls. What is Chaitanya Lila? The Odarja element, the additive, magnanimous distribution. It's being distributed, Das Dike means in the 10 directions. North, south, east, west, and everything in between, and up and down, everywhere. Krishna will come as Mahaprabhu and sing the praises of Radharani and Braja Gopis to the world. That he can do. He can't reciprocate the sort of, but he can tell everyone else about it. Yari gorna hoita tabiki hoita kemori dori tam dehe Radhar mahima prema rasasima jagata janata ke. As Vasu Ghosh saying that if Gauranga had not come down, we wouldn't know this. This is the substance of the Krishna consciousness movement. There is no more Krishna consciousness qualitatively and quantitatively to be found than in the heart of Srimati Radharani. So in a sense, the Krishna consciousness movement is an extension of her heart. And how wonderful is that? That's the grace of our Guru Varga. This is what Srila Prabhupada brought to the world, more, how shall we say, expressly indicated by Srila Guru Maharaj. And to this day, by the grace of Guru and Vaishnava, we're giving some opportunity to connect to that plane. That gives value to our lives. If Das Goswami says, without that prospect, what is the meaning of life? With that prospect, how valuable is life? Right? That prospect lies before us in service to Guru and Gauranga, the guidance of Guru and Vaishnava.